Though, of course, Clerks was meant to represent the emotions of working in a dead-end job you hate, while AVGN was meant to represent the emotions of being incredibly frustrated at a video game you played. It was really the perfect time for something like this to come out too. Back in 2006, covering NES games was bound to divide your fan base into two categories. Either people who were around for the NES era as kids who were nostalgic for that time and the memories and frustrations that came with it, or younger people who were born after then and enjoy learning about a moment in video gaming they weren't aware of before. If you want a modern-day equivalent of this, think about how Scott the Woz covers a lot of Wii games, and think about the existential horror of the fact that the Wii is as old now as the NES was when James started doing his videos. James is by far not the first person to cover video games online, and definitely not the first person to do the whole angry, caustic critic angle. Just from the top of my head, there's Agony Booth and Sean Baby. But what he brought was a sense of production and presentation and enough professionalism to make it work. In an era where we were just starting to get an internet where anyone could upload videos, the angry video game nerd being something that did things like have quality audio and multiple camera angles and had properly captured game footage and wasn't edited in Windows Movie Maker made it stand out. Yeah, it was never a high-budget affair, and James never even tried to hide that this was anything other than him in his room with maybe some friends in Halloween costumes showing up. But the fact that he knew the basics of filmmaking made him really, really above his peers, even once copycats began showing up. And for all the backlash this style of angry reviewing gets, the whole "grr, I'm an angry critic and this thing is poppy dog shit" shtick, it actually does work really well here, if anything because it's clear that at every point of the way, James is playing this character tongue-in-cheek. I know oftentimes, especially around this era, you'd see people say inflammatory or dumb things in their videos, and then they'd counter by saying, no, that wasn't me. He had done over 100 episodes of AVGN. The 100th episode seemed like it could have been setting up for finale, but it wasn't. Then the movie came out and it seemed like it would have been a good finale, and then it wasn't. Then in 2016, a 10th anniversary episode reviewing Mega Man came out and seemed like it could be a finale, and then it wasn't. There were these constant signs of James wanting to give the nerd closure, but never seeming to fully commit to it. What didn't help was that this was also around the time that Doug Walker's then retirement from Nostalgia Critic was still fresh in people's minds. So the question of whether or not online reviewers could theoretically step down if they wanted to had been introduced. So I guess the question is, what exactly happened to cause this much fixation about it around this period of time? There's this ongoing belief that people have online that working on the AVGN movie sort of burnt James out and might have broken him a little bit. I'm not going to say fully that that's the case because I don't know James, and to my knowledge he's never publicly spoken about this, but for what it's worth, future AVGN producer Justin Silverman stated that he also believes this to be true, and when you think about it, it does make sense. Making movies is tiring. The AVGN movie was a years-long process that took a lot of effort and a lot of stress and a lot of money. And the thing is that James wanted this to be his big break. He specifically decided to go to Hollywood to shoot it, even though it made the whole thing more challenging and more expensive than if he shot it literally anywhere else. He paid money to have it premiere at the Egyptian Theater. He clearly put a lot of himself and his energy and passion into this film, and it just didn't really pay off. The movie didn't receive the warmest of reviews. It had popular screening events with fans, and there are some fans who like it, but that's it. It's just the fans. It didn't really garner him any recognition or popularity or acclaim outside of people who were already familiar with him as the angry video game nerd. Which makes sense because from what I watched, yeah, I can't really imagine anyone else but fans getting anything out of this movie. So I can imagine having his live stream become something that was either ignored or mocked by the general public was not that good of a feeling. That's not to say it's that simple, because a good counter-argument to this is that James would go on any new grounds if you've been a long-term fan of James, but the video and exploration of James's VHS room and his history with the format has a certain level of heart and charm to it that's been missing. You get to see James go through his memories of recording films as they aired on TV at night, not being sure exactly what he was going to record, his memories of walking down video stores, discovering old monster movies. He has so much passion for this, and it shows. And that's not even getting into the finer details, like how this video doesn't have a sponsorship, and how it has multiple camera angles, and how James is the only person in it. It honestly feels like a genuine attempt to respond to some of the criticism that the channel has accumulated. And then in an update James posted, he said that he plans to release more scripted content like this throughout the year, from movie reviews to gaming videos to just stuff over other topics he wants to talk about. And also with the update came other interesting news, mainly that the increase in focus to scripted content meant that the Cinemassacre podcast was cancelled, and that while Screenwave will still be involved in